All right, so moving on a little bit, what would you say was the most exciting game you remember either playing in or listening to on the radio or seeing or whatever? What's the one game that just stands out to you from when you were a kid, or I mean even just any time in your life?
It can be any sport.
Any sport, yeah.
Oh boy. I don't know. I mean, there are that I was involved in.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
That I was involved in.
I mean, it doesn't have to be one.
I mean, we won a state championship in football in 1949 in Lapeer. That was outstanding. Yeah. Yeah, we beat Rochester, and in those days they used to run trains to those games.
Oh wow.
Back and forth, and there would be anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 people at those games.
Wow.
I mean, it was a real rivalry out in that area. But as far as personally, that was an outstanding situation. There were fast pitch softball games that would come to the top. We beat Bolters in Corunna once, and Bolters was a fast pitch team, and they had a man pitching for him whose name was Kevin Hurley. And in those days, some of those teams picked up players and they paid them, paid them to play. And this guy was probably about the third best in the world.
Wow.
In the world. And we played them in Corunna in an invitational, I think it was, but it was Bolters out of Saginaw. And they had won the international championship.
Wow.
They had won the international championship, not just state and national, but they had won the international championship. And I'm trying to think. I think it was Motor Products, the team that I was playing for at that point in time. But anyway, we beat him 1-0.
Wow.
And I think it was a no-hitter on my part.
Okay.
But we only got like one hit.
Yeah.
And a stolen base and a pass ball, and that was in the 5th inning. So it was nothing at that point. And then and we just kept the door shut for 6th and 7th. So, but that was pretty outstanding.
Yeah, that sounds like.
And you talk to a number of guys in Owasso, and they will probably say that was one of the more exciting games that they'd ever played in. I mean, I didn't realize that, but I've had guys in Owasso tell me that since then, that was probably one of the highlights of their softball career.
Wow.
Because that was a renowned pitcher. I mean, he played all over the world. So
yeah.
So that was good, and I mean, we won the state championship in Petoskey. That went 14 innings with a team out of Sunfield, and we've lost a few championship games too, in Scottsville and Petoskey, and so. But all of those sort of come to the top.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of hard to narrow.
Yeah, and we used to play some pretty high level fast pitch softball.
Yeah.
So.
And this was like what kind of league would you like say this was in? Like how would you go about like getting on one of these teams or whatever that you were playing on?
Well, in the teams that we were playing, when I first came to Owasso, you'd have Class A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. And there were probably 50 teams. Wow. Conservatively speaking, there were probably 50 teams in Owasso.
Wow. So this was a big deal back then.
Fast pitch softball was a big deal back there. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, slow pitch has come on since then, but fast pitch was a big deal. But the teams that we played were top level teams all over the state. I mean, we played Lansing, we played Ann Arbor teams, Detroit teams, Saginaw, Bay City, Grand Rapids, Battle Creek. We played all of the big teams, and we used to come together in tournaments and play all of these top level teams. So we were playing the best in the state.
Wow.
So it wasn't. We were playing always good teams.
Wow. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a player, how would you say preparation for games? I mean, even with your comparison between fast pitch softball and like the way they prepare for baseball now, like how would you say that has changed over the years in terms of just preparing yourself for a game?
well, you know, I think there's a, I'll speak to softball first of all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I would prepare for a game as far as softball's concerned, and some teams I played on, the players individually were self-motivated to come to the game ready to play.
Yeah.
And then I played on other teams that wasn't necessarily so. And you can tell the difference, you know, within, not only within a team atmosphere, but with individuals when they walk out on the field to play. So,
Right.
so you know, that would be one aspect. But when I came to play softball, I mean, in my heart and physically, I was ready to play.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I didn't start getting up for the game when I showed up at the field.
Right.
You know,
it was like
there was
at the
a
beginning
lot
of the day kind of
and
thing.
that basically was why I stopped playing after, you know, the number of years that I did. I just didn't want to demand out of myself anymore. So I just stopped playing.
Mm-hmm.
And because I did that for, you know, a long time, 35 years. As far as baseball and other things like that are concerned, you know, I think there's, you know, a whale of a lot more statistical analysis and all of this kind of stuff
Yeah.
that goes into the sports nowadays.
Right.
That never occurred, you know, historically.
Right.
You just went out and played ball, and you
Right.
used your basic skills. Well,
Yeah.
now, you know, they've got where guys play and where they bat and what they can hit and what they can't hit, and on and
Right.
on and on and
Right.
on. So
Right.
there's so much more statistical component to the game now than there used to be.
Like more strategy almost.
Yeah, more strategy, and you know, and I think, you know, I think sometimes maybe that's overdone.
Yeah.
Because I fail to see sometimes where you've got an ace that's going into the 8th inning and he's pitching very well, and you bring a closer in and he messes around with the game and maybe loses it. So
Yeah.
I fail to see the wisdom in that.
Yeah.
Because you're counting pitches and all this. I think it could get a little bit too much that
Right.
way.
Right.
So you sort of have to.
Mhm.
But that's the biggest. You know, that's one of the biggest differences that I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think some guys have just. I think some guys just have bigger desire and bigger heart, and they just come more equipped and ready to play than others do. It's just it's sort of built into them, either what they've learned or they innately have been born with it.
Yeah.
But people differ in that area. I mean, some are just more highly motivated to be competitive and win, and others are.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Okay. The next question I had for you is, how would you say the relationships between the teams and the fans, the players and the fans, how would you say that's changed over the years? Because I mean, like back a long time ago, it was Lou Gehrig, right, who was, I consider myself the luckiest, that was him, right, with that speech. And I mean, that was pretty direct right to the fans in terms of like, you know, I care a lot about you guys and stuff. And nowadays, I mean, maybe it's not so much like that with the direct relationship between the players and the fans. So have you observed any changes like that since you were a kid?
I'm not sure that I can really speak to, you know, the whole sports area and say how those changes are. I think in sports situations, whether it's baseball or golf or whatever it is, I think some individuals are just more amenable to interaction with people.
Yeah.
And some are not so. And so, you know, from one perspective, I think it's more of an individual thing. It's just how they interrelate and act with people. And they, like Granderson, for goodness sakes, I mean,
Right.
you know, he interacts just very comfortably with people, and he's a, you know, and it's true in golf. You've got people that are, you know, that just won't even give you the time of day, and you've got people that will interact and sign, you know, their signatures and things like that. But as far as total organizations are concerned, you know, it's still those fans in the stand that pay for what's going on. So there has to be some bridges that are built there, and so you can't be an island off to yourself, because they're really what keep you going. So it behooves them to, you know, to interact to a certain degree, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah.